the CRA, special meeting for the CRA. And we're going to start at 5:35. And again, today's September 27, 2022. Let's call the meeting to order. Madam Secretary?
Yes. Vice Chairman Desume,
Here.
Board Member Galvin, Board Member Timothy, Board Member Estime Irving,
Present.
Chairman Bieneme.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Where's the flag? Neil trying to hide. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The consent agenda, it's no, Madam Secretary, the consent agenda.
Consent agenda, do I read this? Okay. Unless a member of the CRA board wishes to remove a specific item from the portion of the agenda, tab A constitute the consent agenda. This item is self-explanatory and is not expected to require additional review or discussion. This item will be recorded as individually numbered item adopted unanimously by following motion that consent agenda comprise of tab A.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Can I hear a motion on the consent?
So moved.
Second.
I
Thank
have a motion on the floor by Board Member Galvin, seconded by Board Member Estime Irving. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much, and we have one item for review and action. Item 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's please.
Okay.
The entire resolution or just the title? Okay. A resolution of the Chair and Board members of the North Miami Community Redevelopment Agency approving the fiscal year 2022 through 2023 budget, authorizing the Executive Director to transmit the fiscal year 2022 through 2023 budget to the City of North Miami and Miami-Dade County, authorizing the Executive Director to take all actions necessary to complete the approval process for the fiscal year 2022 through 2023 budget with the City of North Miami and Miami-Dade County and providing an effective date.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. North Miami CRA Board members, good evening. Neil Shiver, Executive Director of North Miami CRA. The total revenues in the proposed fiscal year 22-23 budget totals $22,594,567. The breakdown of the sources of that revenue includes payments from the City of North Miami in the amount of $9,870,193, Miami-Dade County in the amount of $6,110,822, in addition to $6,446 from carryovers from the previous budget, and also included at numbers $126,000 and $126,099, representing 1/2 of an overpayment due from the City of North Miami. This budget increased from the previous fiscal year $5,326,200. Briefly, what I would like to do is go over how we allocated those increases, and I'll go over also some of the projects and programs that we intend to spend that money on, and then I'll turn it back over to the board, and I'll be as brief as possible. Some of the increases from the previous year is for infrastructure grants. Those are the monies that we award to our mixed-use developments. We increased that budget by $2,312,704. We increased our housing initiative by $1.4 million, and we added a couple of new allocations. What we did is we looked at all 4 commercial quarters in the North Miami, City of North Miami, that's being Northwest 7th Avenue, Northwest 125th Street, Northeast 6th Avenue, and West Dixie Highway. And what we did is we allocated $100,000 to each streetscape initiative, and the theory, the rationale is what we want to do is put seed money in each one of those projects. Each one of those streets have been studied a lot, but we don't have actionable documents. So we're adding money in to be able to get some scope of services and some cost analysis so we can move some of these studies that we have in our office for those street corridors. The last thing I'll say is some of the new programs. Also, we have funding in this budget for a downtown parking garage initiative. As this board very well knows, that in the third interlocal agreement, the CRA was tasked with 2 of 3 objectives. One was the redevelopment of Northwest 7th Avenue. Another objective was the task of building a parking garage in the downtown core area and or build some affordable housing, very low and low affordable housing. So what we did at the CRA is we put 2 of those 3 initiatives in this budget, the Northwest 7th Avenue Redevelopment Initiative, as well as the parking garage. The interlocal agreement calls for, I don't know, maybe 60 spaces, but we're looking to build at least 250 to 300 parking spaces. And what we did is we allocated $100,000 to at least get some actionable or working documents to get that process moving. I think I went over the highlights. We increased $5 million, explained how we're allocating those additional monies. And also, I think last time I spoke about the North Miami CRA First-Time Home Buyers Program. I won't go into it in detail this much, but we're looking to put some money into that program for not necessarily for land acquisition, but hopefully we can get the land at no cost from the city, and that's hopefully. We have not had an agreement, but we did put money in this budget to do site preparations, surveys, and some construction documents in further of the Home Builders First-Time Home Buyers Program. And I'm open for any questions, so I'll stop there and turn it over to the board for any further questions.
Thank you very much. From the last budgeting we had, and that's why it been postponed. And can you clarify what was missing?
Well, in the last budget, and I want to thank the Mr. Vice Mayor, because in the last budget, apparently there was a underestimate of our budget of close to like $1.2 million. What we did was we used the numbers from the city were correct, but instead of using a gross number, for some reason, we inserted the net number. And instead of using the gross revenues from the city, we put the net number, and the difference between those numbers was about $1.2 million. It was a clerical error. I take full responsibility for that. But at the end of the day, we had an opportunity, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, to come back to review the budget. We think we have a much better budget. We think it's a lot more simple, and plus we do have additional $1 million.
Thank you very much. And now let's open it to the public. Public hearing is open on the budget. Mike? Public hearing is open on the CRA budget. Let me ask you a question. Okay, public hearing is now closed. In this year budget, we didn't add money for the cleanup of Fox Park, the additional money for the cleanup.
The Rush Park cleanup was already allocated in the previous budget.
No, it was $1 million
We
allocated.
had $1 million, but we had $2 million for the cleanup.
$2 million, but
$2 million.
$1 million was allocated.
Right, of which it's rolled over. So that money is still there. In fact, I'm glad you asked the question. I did talk to the developers of Rusk Park and say, listen, I want to get that money off my books. What they told me is they're not prepared to receive the money, if you can believe it or not, because they want to set up a nonprofit, a conduit to receive the money for tax purposes.
Okay.
So even though we were ready to give them the money, they're not ready to receive it. But we do have it, and now we have to since I can't get it off my books, I have to roll it over.
Just for tax purposes, that's why they want to
Exactly,
do it.
but
Okay.
the money's there.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. And now public hearing is now closed here. Let's come up with the dais and who's going to start?
Thank you, Mr.
Jeff.
Chairman. Mr. Shiver, did you make any I don't have any type of budget changes, paperwork, and I haven't found anything online that's anything different than what I had concerns with 2 weeks ago. Did you print new copies? I gotta find out. Do we have a breakdown between staff and me as a board member, or just what?
Well, first and foremost, let me be clear, first of all, that shouldn't happen. This is a complete new budget.
I agree with you.
Okay.
So
Right.
before I vote no from the top of my lungs, I'm trying to see if there was some sort of understandable breakdown.
Well, when everybody else got their
Where's the budget?
new budget, you should have gotten yours at the same time, and
I did not
I
get it.
can't answer why that did not happen, but can anybody address that for me? But I'll apologize because
Well-
we transmit all these at the exact same time. So the budget last week and this budget are entirely in different budgets.
Right.
And so you should have gotten a complete package,
Clearly, I did not get it in any way, shape, or form.
okay?
Our CRA website, which is usually my go-to, is apparently down. I get a lot of City of Oxford stuff when I go on there and start poking around. I-
I'll have to inquire, because they're normally pretty studious at that. I have to take it that you did not get it. I just can't comprehend in my mind right now why we did not send it to you, because all this stuff should have gone out together to everyone at the same time.
Right.
So
Right.
I greatly apologize for that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be voting no with a strong objection that staff made a major error, in my opinion, 2 weeks ago by overlooking the $1 million, and has made an even greater, perhaps, error in not making sure that me as a voting board member had a copy of the budget on which to vote. I know I'm leaving soon, but please don't pretend like I'm already out the door.
Right.
I should have gotten a copy of the budget, and there you go.
And again, I've already apologized, and I'll do it again. I just can't comprehend how that could possibly happen. But,
And there I agree with you.
you know, but I will get to the bottom of it. Again, I can always
Did your,
say,
the first question, did your department bring all 5 budget books to mayor and council's office?
They did.
yes,
Okay, that's what they need, okay.
yes.
Okay.
So,
So, in deference, I mean, I'll assume it's somewhere. I haven't seen it. If somebody in the back of the room can run out and bring it to me, wonderful.
because not only do we electronically transmit these things, we also physically send books
Okay,
over.
so let's talk about electronic transmission, which is where most of our residents would have to get this budget to be able to view it, review it, and have comments. Not only did I not get it, but it's not online anywhere that I can find.
Let me explain that. It is online, but it's not on our website. When I
Is it on a publicly accessible website?
Yes, it is on the City of North Miami website. And let me explain why. When I came to this job, our website had already crashed. So when I took on this job about maybe 2 months ago, we did not have a operable website. Apparently it had crashed. We do have one 95, 98% capacity now. We have been really working hard with IT. We lost a lot of data in trying to recover those files. So as a backup, we now submit our agenda and our notices through the city clerk and through their websites. And so we advertise in the newspapers as well as on the city website.
I'll be voting full-throttledly no. And the only reason I'm not asking that we continue this is because I think legally, Mr. Zelkowitz, are we out of time to continue this?
Can we add it onto our neck tomorrow?
I get it, storms are.
Essentially, yes.
I mean, I get that, but in all honesty, if I have not been given this information, nobody called to ask if I'd seen it, there was no copy online.
So,
How can I help but feel insulted by the fact that this budget wasn't made available to me, nor, you know,
And
Point
I'm
it out.
insulted that you even have to go through this. I just can't stress enough how it is my job to change the culture of this office. I rely on experienced people who've been here before me. That's still not an excuse, right? I would have thought that we've had maybe some other issues, but I've never thought something as simple and as important as keeping your board members informed of a duly published meeting that everybody knew we were going to have the last time we were here. There's no excuse for that.
Okay.
I can't even begin to make one.
I will make sure you have my email address after this meeting. I am online almost 24/7. If you have doubts in the future, please send it directly to me. Don't leave it in the hands of somebody in the back. I'm hugely disappointed, and I'll be voting no on tonight's budget.
I
Thank you, Mr.
understand.
Chairman.
But Mr. Shiver, it's not like, you gotta take full responsibility of your departments and making sure that doesn't happen, even though if you give it to them, they're supposed to do. We gotta find out whether it's the mayor and council who didn't do their job, or your department who didn't do their job. But it seems like the books were there. I don't know for how long you've been there, and please find out.
If,
Yes, Vice
Mr.
Mayor.
Chairman, if I may, good evening to my colleague and Mr. Shiver and Madam Dr. Clerk and Mr. Attorney. I got it today as well during my
Today?
briefing, but I don't know when it was there, but I don't think it's the CRA staff. I think it was given to us. The issue that when I saw it, it looked identical, and I think I was in a meeting with with Steve, with our attorney, Zuckowitz. I didn't know, if I didn't look twice, it was the same, it wasn't the different book. So my advice was to Mr. Simon, if there's a memo that you could, write out to us, I think that would have clarified the thing, because it looks identical, unless you go to the page 4 of 11 that says 527, 927, which is today. And I think the memo possibly would have at least say, this is where we are, these are the changes. Like the city manager, I think there's a memo that was sent yesterday, fully, the changes.
Explain the
Yeah,
details
from the last one to the.
So is there anybody
the
here
first
from
one.
the city? This also bothers me, that we have these types of discussions. There's nobody here from the city for the CRA meetings, and there's nobody from the CRA for the city meetings. We are cross-pollinated, and it's, all of these years, we've always had each other in the same room. So right now, I would love to call Teresa Terlis to the microphone and say, Teresa, why did your people not deliver this budget to me? Why did nobody check to see if I had it?
Right.
And she's not here. So any other questions I might have on the budget that relate to the city, I can't even ask those.
Well, and I'm not here to defend the city manager, but this is strictly a CRA error. I wouldn't put it on the city manager, even though we use the city clerk to transmit, to publish, right? There's still no excuse for a board member not getting an agenda for a meeting. I just
it's
can't.
not online. I looked for it online, and I couldn't find it. Our CRA website is down. Even if there are issues, at least that page should be available so people can go and look and see what the agenda, the budget is detailing. It's not,
Or it should be emailed.
Well,
it should
could
be
email
emailed, okay.
Yeah, no,
Let the
it's
record
Brandon, it's
reflect that at 5:54 this evening, I have been delivered a copy of the CRA budget. I mean,
Was it in your office, though? Or
well, I have no idea if it was
or
in my
was it-
office. Obviously, there's nobody from the city here that I can ask that question
I agree.
of. I mean,
But it still
it's-
shouldn't happen this way, council. It still should not happen this way. And as far as the website is working. It just says, hopefully it will redirect you to where the information is. We're working on it. Again, I don't want to make it an excuse, but when I came here and when I took this job, we had no website. We had to rebuild it from scratch.
I didn't know that.
Right? Apparently, it had crashed weeks before I had got here. Again, I still have to accept that responsibility. The good news is my understanding that we're up and running. I just have to prove some of the contents. But again, that's the situation that I was brought into when I was hired for this job. I would like to say, and let me try to end on a positive note. I would like to believe that we are going in the right direction. One thing I will say is not only am I trying to change the culture, I'm trying to change the pace, I'm trying to change the priorities, whether some of our development partners like it or not. And I guess when there is change, there may be some hiccups, which they are, but I can assure you that we have momentum. We're going in the right direction. I just got to make sure I have the right people running this mile with me.
They need to take this down. Okay.
I'm not going to belabor the point. I don't think anything else that could be said would make me change my mindset right now. I mean, I literally just got a copy of the budget.
I think you want to be
No,
recognized.
listen,
no,
he's as an
I'm good.
employee,
I'm
we
good.
just,
Yeah,
you do,
Tell me.
I've
Yeah, we
sucked
got
up
it.
enough
We have
time.
received it.
I want to defer to my fellow commission members who might have questions they want to ask. My major
Yes.
point was the fact that I never saw a budget, and even though I looked for it online, I couldn't find it online. So,
You're not alone.
sorry, Mr. Chairman, for taking up so much time.
no, that's fine.
Chairman?
Yes.
Can I, Mr. Executive Director? I'll wait for him.
The only thing I'm
Please,
being told is the agenda is on the website, and that
we don't know, that
they want to
website,
confirm that they did
Sir,
send all the agendas out.
if you can tonight, before this meeting is out, please close that website, and then once you approve it, we could get it back on.
You got
Please,
that.
thank you.
Okay.
The administration is not, they got people from British on there.
Mr. Chairman, are you going district by district? How are we acting our
That was
question?
Vice Mayor, okay, after that.
Okay.
Goes to UK. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, can I go?
You said you, yeah.
Yeah, that was just a comment about the website. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, and colleague. The questions that I did have with the executive director when we met today with the attorney was as follow. I'm glad that the million plus is back in there, but my concerns were we went from 500,000 to almost $900,000 in staff and salaries. He did break it down, some of them, and I do respect the fact that he is coming in. So the cover to hire new people, I understand, but that is extremely a little bit high in terms of the people. And that's a lot of people. And I also have a concern with the in-house attorney. So I don't know if he plan on, with Mr. Zuckerwitz, we already paying $150. There's an in-house attorney. That's part of that $750. And then plus, we don't know how much from the city. From the last budget, it was 220. Now it's reduced to 122. So I did ask, and I do agree with Councilman, with Board Member Galvin, in terms of somebody from the city to be here, because I did ask someone to tell me from page 12 of 17, which listed under item 4, other administrative expenses, $763,600,000. Letter C, city administrative staff and salary and I guess benefit and fringes, 122. So that went from 222 to 122, and Mr. Shiver did explain that most of that is for the city. So the list that I was giving, most of those people are gone from the city, but there's already a 600,000 from the city. So if it's the board direction to give the, to pay, incentive. I don't know what the line item, the additional money is. He did say there's, I think, is it 40, Mr.
Yes.
Executive? So about 40,000 from that
is CRA staff, which he said he will remove and put under the 750. So we still left with 86,000 from the city staff that I don't know why these folks are getting the bonus from which I don't mind, but, we need to kind of straighten that out. And then my other concerns are the items in terms of the capital project. I know you said Northwest 7th Avenue listed, but you also listed 3, if that's one of your priority. But they're each getting 100,000, you said. So is there additional money for 7th since it's one of the item identified in the plan? Or is it just the 100,000 plus the 50,000, that'll be 150 in terms of numbers? And also the land, are you talking about vacant land that we have for you to redo the rehab, or so just clarification on those 2 points.
Okay, let me start with the first point. The first point addressed the line item, other administrative expenses. And in that line item, we have 3 items: administrative support, which goes to, and then we have other administrative expenses. And then we do have a section that says city administrators, staff salaries, and I think that's the part you're talking about.
Yes.
I went back and pulled the past 3-4 budgets, and they have the exact same entries. And then I'll come back and explain mine, right? I went back to fiscal year 1920, and it has other administrative expenses, a total of 660,000. It has the same line item, A, city administrative support, 564, and then more importantly,
564?
it has 564,000 for city administrative support. It has other administrative expenses.
You have that already in item
I'm
A.
going for, well, let me get to the point. The point is, the exact way that this budget is done is the way it has been done in the past 3-4 budgets. So when I came into this position, I did not have enough time to change the budget format. I accepted the budget format that has been approved by this board for the past 3 or 4 years. And so let me go to the previous budget before I talk about mine. In fiscal year 21-22, which was approved by this board, other administrative expenses are $863,600. Administrative support, $600,000. Other administrative expenses, $16,600. Administrative staff salary and fringe benefits, $222,000. $2,200,000 on top of the fact that even when I go over to the employee and salaries, that's $500,000. So if you take the 500 and the 220, you have $722,000 that was approved by this board last fiscal year. Right.
That's fine.
So what I did this year, right, was yes, I did increase the employee salaries and fringe benefits because I have the intent. I wish that I can bring in more competent people to move the agenda towards what I'm trying to do. And if you look at and I said more, which means I got competent people on my
I was
staff.
going to ask, is that
Yeah,
more
that- yeah,
I said
competent?
more
or competent. I
more
was gonna ask,
competent
right,
Yes.
people, not less, okay? That was a positive statement, right? And so getting back to the employee salaries, I have down here executive director.
No, sir, not that.
So you're still talking about the
Yeah,
So what
it's
I
not
did.
you-
So what I did was instead of taking the $220,000, because you raised the question, and I did not know where that money came from. I was very surprised to know that in these budgets that have been previously approved, that you have 2 sections for employees. You have our regular employees, and apparently in this section they put administrative employees. The hourly.
Yeah,
ones.
that's
That was
crazy.
I adopted that format. So what I did was I reduced that from 220 to 122.
So where's that 100,000? Where did you put that?
Well, what I did was I took your logic.
You gave it to me?
I bought into your logic to maybe to my detriment, right? That maybe some of those people that was represented in that figure is represented in my 750. So I reduced that by 100 and did not touch my regular salary bound. So at the end of the day, this budget is consistent with
No,
the.
no.
You gotta let me finish.
I know,
Consistent
it's not.
with the previous budget, with the exception that I want to bring in, I allocated a slot for an in-house counsel. So if you add the price that the in-house counsel may or may not cost, right? This budget for that line item is almost exactly the same that was approved last budget, with the exception of that one position.
Okay.
And I have the backup here.
No, okay,
So
Mr. Shiver.
all I'm simply saying is we just adopted the format that's been previously approved by this board. Will I change it moving forward? Of course I will, because I think it's confusing.
Yes, because the city staff, it's not that I want you to defend that. It's a policy decision for us, because you showed me the list of people, but what I want to find out from the city, how much exactly is that money? Because the total I saw was $28,000 that we sent over. So I need to know, before I can make a positive decision, how much is it that the budget director, are you allowed to speak without the manager, or find out how much is it that from the city that we are giving? If it's 30,
I
I
think I have an
We
answer
didn't
for
do that for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we did.
I
We've
know.
been postponed this for 2 weeks. I thought.
Right. But I got an answer
so
for
we
it.
can have all those
How much?
questions answered.
But I do have an answer, right?
Yes, sir.
What I showed you were a list of city employees that the CRA was
$28,000.
paying for shared services, right?
28,000.
What I have found out, that those numbers do not come out of the city administrative staff salaries as much as they may come out the administrative support salaries.
So what is this number then?
So-
Now I'm more confused.
So I'm not confused in the sense that these numbers represent the support service and the shared services. The first one, A, represent the support and shared services with the city of North Miami, right? C, the one that you are referring to, apparently does relate 100% to my staff, okay?
Oh, wait.
So
wait.
therefore, I reduced it by 100%, and after talking to you today, I went and after looking at the other budgets, it became clear to me what they were doing. I don't know why they did it. I can't answer for why the previous budgets bifurcated.
Mr. Shiver, so item C is 100% yours or the city?
As I see in the previous budgets, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did it a couple of ways, but if I had to make a call, I'll say that's my money from
Oh, my
my
God.
staff.
Okay, because that's what I was trying to get to today. And you said 40,000 was for your staff, so the 80 was for the city. So that's why I called the assistant city manager and asked her if she could verify it, because I'm trying to figure out if you're asking for 750, which I have an issue with, and then on top of that you're trying to get another 100,000, but I thought the 100,000 was for the city. So somebody from the city needs to say how much money they're getting. Madam, can you ask your boss if you could answer this as the budget director? How much is the CRA aside from the 600,000 that we are giving from the CRA? See, I thought this was a policy decision that we will make. If we want to give them 100,000 extra, we can do. That's up to us. That's why I was talking to my colleague here. Like, this is an extra 100,000, what we want to do with it. I don't have a problem giving it to the city, but I just want to make sure, how much do we, okay, thank you. How much do we give the city besides the 600,000 that's listed? Because on this sheet, it says 122 extra, which I don't have a problem with, again, on the record. But I want to make sure what it's for.
No, so I had a similar question in my
Oh,
briefing
okay.
last week. The city administrative staff salary infringes that 122, because if you notice, their front desk person is not listed in salary. There's some other positions that are not listed in
He
salary.
said,
And I was under the impression that that is CRA staff.
I know,
The
but
city
he said
staff
no.
is in the
But
six-
I'm
That's what he
corrected
said.
it. It
Oh.
is CRA staff.
Yeah, it's only.
I'm
Okay, then we got a
correcting it.
big problem, because earlier today, and the attorneys here, you told me 40,000 of that was your staff, the administrative. So I said 80 was for the city. That's why I called the deputy, the assistant manager. So if
The
this is,
600,000 is for the city.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
We,
Right.
we know that because that's listed. We were talking about the 122. Remember, the
Yeah, no, that's
122 was
strictly CRA.
220. Well, he told me 100. Well, 40,000 of that was for a reception. Was for some.
Could I clarify my point?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me clarify my point. And this is what, and I'm gonna be very careful about how I say this.
So this. needs
Mr.
to
Vice
change.
Mayor, what I'm telling you is, yes, when I met with you,
Mhm.
I was confused,
Under the impression.
right,
Okay.
on why we would be bifurcating our salaries in two sections of the budget, right? And I was confused as to what that number represented. So what I did was, after our meeting, I went back and pulled all the previous budgets that had been approved by this board. And what I found out was that section is, that's only that section, where it's C on my budget, and it may be C on several, because it's D on one of them. That section is, right, for salaries for my office. And my understanding that there are two people that represent, who fall under those two salaries.
And they're getting
And the two
122.
people are, can you,
No, 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 no,
I
no,
just
no,
want
no,
them to
no,
tell
no,
me
no.
who
We
they
can't
are.
do that. We can't. No, 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 no,
the
no.
two-
We can't.
it's a
Yeah, that's- we can't.
receptionist, it's a receptionist.
Yeah, but we can't do that. We
Well,
can't.
let me explain.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's a receptionist, and then my understanding is one other person. So there are
Got
two, the way that these budgets have them written down, it says something like one FTE
it's
administrative
okay.
specialist.
But, so that means that if we added $872,000 will go to salary from 500,000 to 872.
What I have here is the
750 plus 122, how much is that?
the seven, the 750,
It's
right?
872.
Mm-hmm,
For-
872.
Oh, if you add those two together. the
Yes, sir.
8.6, okay, I see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 8. What is the percentage of that, since we're on that topic, for the entire CRA
The
budget?
CR is,
I know we normally do it like in a graph, like what
right, and
percentage
I have
is-
it here. The allowable administrative expense is 20%, and I think that we are at 4%.
Oh, okay.
So 4% of our budget goes to salaries, when the guidelines say we can spend up to 20%.
That's not
So we
bad.
way within the recognizable guidelines. I think where the confusion came is on my part, when I did not understand, first of all, why we bifurcated those, why were not all my salaries in one line item, but I went back and researched it and found out it has never been that way, number one. Number two, I was told that on the other administrative expenses, we have a senior administrative staff member and a receptionist under that line item. So as we see this, as we look at this budget, I have $122,000 allocated for two positions, a senior administrator and a receptionist, right? And the other ones speak for themselves. So if you combine those two, you're exactly right. It's $862,000, which represents
872.
4% of our budget, nowhere near the 20%.
And I had a similar question last budget season with the previous executive director when I noticed that the two were separate, because it is confusing. You see the line item for the city support services, but like, for instance, tonight we have Junior working the back, you have purchasing doing our procurement, you're utilizing city services, so there's a number for that. And then I didn't understand why they were, separate, but it does cause confusion when you have one line item here when it should just be everyone, because my question was, who are you cutting? Because I didn't see everyone listed in the in the department. But then I was advised that there's two separate places for it. So, and it's been like that in the past. I think moving forward, we should just include it all in one line item to create consistency.
Yeah, but you're right, and that's what I did suggest, but the problem I still have, board member, is it states, and during the last meeting, I said if they could clarify that, so that should have been removed from that meeting, or at least from the time that they find out, or in the memo, that the city, the word city, see, that's the confusion, because it's not the city. that's the problem that I'm having. It's CRA. The city already got paid from the 600,000. I was under the impression they were getting more. They're not.
No, it's because it was like that years in prior. And I
Well,
think to the issue where Galvin said that, hey, the city manager needs to be here, also don't forget that the city manager and the CRA used to be the same person. So that,
Yeah, but that doesn't explain where we are right now. I mean, yeah, it should have been
Traditionally,
done.
Yeah.
as the old man
Different.
speaking,
Yeah.
we used to have at every single CRA and city board meeting separately, each other was in the room. Outside of just even a budget hearing, there was
No,
always
no.
people in the room. So that's my.
If I can comment, I would agree that the word city should not be in there. If we
Yes.
strike the word city,
Yep.
and it says administrative staff salaries, I
That
think
would
we're
be-
fine. And let me just show a
CRA.
I mean, it should say,
Replace CRA.
your CRA, or just administrative or CRA administrative staff salaries.
Yes, CRA.
But let me compare, if you combine the two numbers, let me combine the two numbers like you did, $862,000, right?
72.
872, and if you combine the two last budget, it was 720. So I want to keep it in perspective. I want to keep it in
See,
perspective in the sense that, yes,
Here's what I'm
adding-
gonna do. I'm gonna ask the former director to come here next meeting because this is too confusion. I don't want to talk about what used to happen because they're not there.
I don't
the
think that's
issues.
appropriate.
No, it's very appropriate because he's confused. His staff can't appreciate. And
But
don't
if we
know.
if we
No,
said
but I
something,
don't
if
think
it
it
was
should
in
be
the
in public,
budget, you cannot bring the previous
No,
employee here.
that's not
If this,
appropriate.
listen, if the budget last year is the same
It's the
and
same thing.
you just got to compare to find out if it's that true or not, that's
No.
easy.
But we just went to two different things. Nobody could.
He said
clarify
the
it.
budget between last year and this year, is it the same item? That we want to clarify now.
yeah, we clarified it.
If
This
it's
is all
this-
CRA staff.
Huh?
It's CRA staff. You have 872 for CRA staff.
So
Did we
is
have
it-
that
well,
last
no,
year?
no.
We had that. He
Well,
was there last year.
Then
That's
I need
been-
to find out how much did we spend. Can somebody tell me
Just pull it up on
How
the
much we
from the
spend on
CRA in terms of
last
the?
year, the complete
Sorry,
budget
sorry.
was 720,000. This year, I'm going
So
to, if
the
I'm
CRA
combining both
budget
the 862.
for staff
Yes,
was
yes, I have it here.
Excuse me, please. There's something we need to understand. Every time you're gonna have additional money, you're gonna have additional service.
Right.
I'm pretty much sure you're gonna have more staff.
Exactly.
Since you have more project, last year we've been approving over 13 and projects. That's mean I'm pretty much sure you're gonna need more staff. Now we are spending more money
So-
on affordable housing, on home rehabilitation program and all those things. I'm pretty much sure staff cannot be the same thing as the city. It's been we cannot say it was 500,000, now it's 700,000, and there's a problem
And that's why this.
when
the
it comes to
CRA
staff. That's when if you feel like in his plan, there is $5 million more in the CRA coming in, and he need additional staff to spend that $5 million because we need to spend the money. We need to come up with project for that money. We cannot keep the money at the bank.
And Mr.
That's
Chairman,
what needs to be
and I
done.
specify where I'm gonna spend that money. The two new positions are housing specialist and an in-house counsel. That makes the difference.
no, sir. This well,
That makes the difference between the 720 of last budget
Mr.
and the
Mr.
872 of this budget. I put two additional positions that I have not filled, I intend to fill.
Mr. Shiver, I don't want to get into a debate and back and forth, but what I would say is that if we not, the suggestion that was made, I do not want any reference to last year, meaning what was done before, because the confusion kept on saying what was done. The executive director, the current one, kept on mentioning. If that wasn't mentioned, if we need to clarify something, because I'm not even sure on if this was what was the expense from last year, whatever it was from this year, that's the confusion.
Okay,
So
do you want
Can you put up the
to
budget
you want
online?
to postpone the budget
No, we
again? But
can't.
we keep
No, we can't.
confusing
So,
things.
Mr.
But that's
Attorney-
why we had the 2 weeks to
Yep.
go over everything, compare everything, and come up with something. I thought that we give the 2 weeks so you can clarify things with the director. I think that was the reason.
I think so
May
too.
I, Mr. Mayor?
Because if he was in, when we check all previous budget, the line item is the same. The numbers are different, but the line item are the same.
But we don't know the explanation for the line item. That's what I say.
Yeah, but he just got here, been there for, we should be able to explain him because we've been approving the last 4
I'm not
budget
an executive
with those
director,
items.
Mr. Mayor. I'm not
I
the
understand
executive.
that.
Oh, okay.
But if we approve the last 4 budget
But
with the
that's what I'm
same
saying.
line item.
I do not know what it is for. So I said I would get a clarification, which I should have done. So, because I thought he would, this is his budget, so he's presenting it. So whatever questions that people had, that was my thing. So it's very, and I'm not voting yes on this because if we having $122,000, that's 872 going to the CRA cover. That's not clarified in a budget.
What is the question that's not qualifying?
The question is, 872,000 is going to the CRA, why say the city? That's not right for the city. That's all I'm saying. It says the city this morning, and nobody find that to be something I do. He told me, and he said in between the time that he told me that he find out all that money is the CRA. So you just said they had 2 weeks. So if y'all asking me to do that, I have an issue with that because that's my biggest concern among the other things. But I'm done with the questions. Thank you. I see the manager is here. Thank you.
Where's the manager? Okay, Teresa, Madam City Manager, can you please help us understand some of the questions? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, well, my question is simple to you, Madam Manager. How much do we get from the CRA besides the $600,000? Do we get any additional more money?
I believe it's about 564,000. That was the number, close to that number. But yes, that is given for the administrative work.
Thank you.
Now, there is, if you're talking about the tax money, what happens is
No.
we give 9.8, okay, if that's
And
not.
No,
yeah.
we good. Thank you.
But is it, the 564, it's not the same as the money that you receive for the P3.
No,
No,
that
no,
is
no,
a
no,
set,
not
those
those,
are separate
not
dollars.
Not those,
Okay.
yeah. Those are capital.
You're telling me beside the 600,000, you don't receive another almost $200,000 for employees? For stipends, for administrative costs? For
No.
Saying.
What do you mean no? There is a separate, as a matter of fact, I've been here for 2 years. I've been asking who get paid, who get those money. You guys been telling me. You guys be, huh?
It was stopped. If I'm
At
not
one
mistaken.
point, they said the stipends, but after that, you know what they did? They give the employees a raise, and the CRA pay for it on a separate note. They've been doing it forever here. And when I asked the city manager, can you tell me who get those money? One point they give me stipends for $94,000. I said, where's the rest of the money? Then they change the budget. They give everybody a raise. And the CRA, they contribute the money from the CRA to pay those raises on top of the $600,000. That's what that's been happening in the city.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if you remember, there was something like that when I first got here, and you mentioned, like you're mentioning right now, and it was stopped. And if I'm not mistaken, that was under the previous, actually, when the CRA and the city executive person were the same.
Yes. they were
That's
getting
when that was done,
portion.
but that
Yes.
has stopped when you
After.
mentioned that, yes.
Yes.
That's correct. So
Correct.
since I came on, they did not have those stipends. So all we had was their employees' salaries. So I do remember that issue coming up, and I went back, researched it, and it was something that was done prior to me coming in as a city manager, and we only have the salaries, and what we do is we get an administrative stipend that includes for the work that is done on behalf of the CRA from some of the city employees.
Okay, you're telling me the 600,000 that we have besides that, they don't pay for any IT items separately, they don't pay for anything.
No, well, when you talk about IT items, if there's like phone,
For
or
your
those, they'd have to
website
pay
and-
that as a department, which every department would pay that if they use their phones. But in terms of staffing, no.
Hold on, so does that mean that like a Nakia, I don't want to put names out there, but people who work for people who do items for the CRA, like Dunya, who's working tonight broadcasting the meeting, wouldn't she receive a stipend from the CRA?
She does not get a stipend. She has one salary, and we get the one administrative fee that goes towards all of that. And that was a question that we've had.
Is it from the 600,000?
It's from that money, yes.
So certain employees will get a whatever.
There's no stipend.
stipend.
So their salaries are what their salaries are, and CRA contributes. It's to some extent equates to how much percentage of their time they are working on CRA. So for instance, everyone gets a salary in accordance to what their position salary is. And then because, for an example, procurement spends a good amount of their time working on procurement items, there's a percentage that, out of that 600,000, that's calculated towards that. But we're only getting one set of payment from the CRA to the administration. So there is no
So it's not
additional
like
stipend.
a job basis. I don't know. if
No,
that's
job basis is
correct.
completely different. Job basis is every employee that is considered in a professional capacity that has to work beyond the 40 hours. In lieu of doing any type of overtime, you get job basis status, which is I believe it's a 2.5%. I would have to ask Joe if it's 2.5 or 5%, 5%, but I'm pretty sure it's about a 2.5%.
2.5 or 1.5?
No, it's definitely higher than 2, so it's either 2.5% that is added to what their salary is because their job basis, and they would not do overtime.
But it's still from the 600,000.
Yeah, the 600,000 is the same
That's
amount, yes.
alarming.
Okay.
Because when
okay.
you think, I'm sorry, when you think about that, I didn't understand that that's how you guys do it. I thought it was a stipend. It's a bit unfair because if you think about someone who has to do double the work, is like working for the city and the CRA, and you're already inundated with trying to keep up with the city stuff, and you're telling me all we're doing is offsetting their salary with CRA funding, but we're requesting them to technically work for two different agencies
That's a
and
different
deliver the
issue.
same amount of jobs? Nah.
No, that's
No,
a different issue.
I know it's a different issue. I
Besides
didn't realize
that, you are
that's
going to
what
say
it was.
something,
Because you're
Mr.
gonna
Shiver.
No.
When it came to you and you were going to add something.
Right. What he was saying is that we have a worksheet on what city employees get what from the CRA. We have a worksheet, so we know who they are. But what he was telling me is that money does come out of the administrative support category and not the category that I thought we was talking about by city administrators or administrative staff. I want to be clear about this, right? I think we're okay if you just give me a second to explain. The difference between this budget and the last budget on just that item that you raised a concern about that I had to learn about, the difference is $150,000 between last year's budget and this year's budget on CRA salaries. That difference represents 2 additional positions that I'm adding to the CRA that I've yet to fill. So when you look at it from that perspective, this budget is okay. Okay, the difference, let me explain, the difference between last year's budget and this year's budget, taking both categories into consideration, is $150,000. The other difference is I've added 2 new positions, an in-house counsel and a housing specialist. So when you take that in consideration, we are fine with the budget if I'm allowed to add additional staff with the approval of this budget.
With 872?
The 872 is $150,000 different, and I want to add a housing specialist to
No,
work
no,
with
no.
our homeowners program, and I want to bring in an in-house counsel. So that additional $150,000 will have to accommodate those 2 positions.
That's a lot of money, sir, and I think we went over that. So last year, it shows the CRA 500,000. That was wrong?
No, that was correct. But if you add the 500,000 on top of the 220 that you raised, that's the 720.
Yes, but
So
which makes sense, but you said that we were under the impression, because you had listed that the city was getting all that. That's how it started from 2 weeks ago.
But if you look at Section A, the city money is in Section A and not Section C.
Well,
the
we
fact
know
that
that.
the fact that it was written here, city administration, kind of threw me off and everybody off. This was new. I didn't understand why it was there. But after doing my research and pulling the previous budgets, now I
So
understand.
who you hiring with the 122?
Who
Because
I-
you already have
No,
your
the
housing
the
person here. Yes.
122 represents 2 positions.
But you have them here with your 750.
No, I do not. It's a
The
senior
front desk is
administrator
that
and a
front money?
receptionist.
Oh, Jesus.
I did not
need to
set-
be in front desk.
Let me just, Mr. Chairman, what I would do is, I did not create this budget format.
Sir, we
I
know.
accepted it as I found it, right? So we made the allocations based on the format that was presented to us. I don't know the justification for separating those two. Maybe it's because they got different
We
fringe
got it.
benefits, I don't know. But moving forward, I would put all my salaries in one line
Sir,
item.
through the chair, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Sir, real simple, because I'm already over the 750, and I'm not with the legal thing, but that's fine. That's who is getting, now that we know the 122 is not going to the city, it's staying with you.
Right.
So who is getting that money? Who are the, no, don't listen, don't
I
call
thought
nobody.
you wanna
Just
know who it
give us
was.
the positions, just the positions.
The receptionist
Mm-hmm.
and a senior administrator.
Where,
We got 2 people that.
wait, hold on.
We-
Wait. In your narrative, it does listed the receptionist, and then, so they will be getting, okay, okay, I'm good, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So I know you mentioned the additional $1 million. Just for the record, can you state where those $1 million, where you allocated them in this
Okay,
budget?
the additional $1 million, let me go back.
1.2, you said.
The 1.2 million.
The 1 point, what we did was, actually, the increase in the budget was $5 million, $5,326,200, of which 1.2 of that we incorporated after the last meeting. So out of that $5 million, which 1.2 was incorporated after the last meeting, 2.3 we added to infrastructure grants.
2.3 million?
Right. 2.3 we added to infrastructure grants. And by the way, infrastructure grants are for the mixed-use developments, our grants for our mixed-use development. 1.4 we put into our housing initiative, right? 400,000 we allocated to the 4 commercial quarters, $100,000 each. And $100,000 we allocated to the downtown parking garage initiative.
And my next question, you mentioned the infrastructure grants. Which infrastructure grants do we have budgeted? Because I think you just put a line item of 5.4. Normally, there's a breakdown to say how much is
I do, right?
residents at
Now, that's a
Normandy,
very-
Rexpark.
I have that. The infrastructure grants, let me pull it out here. The infrastructure grants, these are development agreements that were approved prior to my arrival. You have the gardens at the residence, right? Of which we gave them $15 million. I think it was $8 million in grants, $7 million in TIF. We got 475 North Miami LLC. We got Allure North Miami, Solo Miami, Partners on 645 LLC, Kayla at the Library Place, and Rux Park. When I total all those infrastructure grants, that's $39,821,525. So, and thank you for the question, because as you know, we do not have $39, $40 million sitting in the account. But these were obligations pre-approved prior to me getting here. So what I'm in the midst of doing is going back and amending these agreements to to get a payment plan on how we pay out those infrastructure grants. For example, I would like to pay some of these commitments over 4 or 5 years. For example, maybe in this budget next year, so that represent the, I don't know, the $5
And
million.
would those With the plan to repay, would that come back to us so that we see what those plans are?
Yes, I want to amend each and every infrastructure budget to have a schedule. One of the things that I know have been raised by this board is, we giving out infrastructure grants as well as TIF agreements, but whether or not we have the means and ability to pay. We do if we have a payment schedule. So what each and one of the developers have agreed to is to take their infrastructure dollars over a certain period, a minimum amount, over maybe 3-4 budgets. And so in this budget, that $5 million under infrastructure grants represent the amount of infrastructure dollars we'll be paying to our developers in the next budget.
Correct.
And hopefully, we'll get more money and we can pay more. And I still have to have more room to even bring on new developments. So it is a tedious task. We're not in trouble. We just need what we did not do is we did not put a minimum, and I stress the word minimum, a minimum payment schedule on how much we can pay each one of these developments out of what budgets. It gives us certainty and it gives the developer certainty. And they all in agreement, because some, and I'll just end with this, some was told, well,
We'll
I
give
was
you-
told I'll get the money when we go to issue a bond. Or some was told, well, I was told that I can get $2 million now and $2 million
yeah.
later, right? I want to have those agreements in writing.
I
So
agree.
so I can budget for it. So let me just finish by saying, so the infrastructure amount in this budget of $5 million plus represent the agreed upon amount that each developer minimum they expect to get in furtherance of the agreements that we've already approved.
No, I don't know if it's included in the budget narrative, but I think that 5.4 needs to, if we can lay it out so that people know, hey, these are where the 5.4 is at 6.4. No, I think it's 6.4 is being allocated to. And my next question/statement is for the commercial incentive program. I know that there's a huge need for that. If we can have some type of consistency as well, because I know when I've asked question, well, how did this one get 25 and this one gets 100 or this one gets 50,000? How do we, schedule the commercial grants? And I also would like to see it advertised. I know our budget season starts October 1st, and I want to make sure that businesses know, because last year it was like October, it was November, and I was asking about commercial grants, and I was told that they were all allocated because these businesses was already in the pipeline, and staff was already working with them to get their applications ready. But I think we still need to have the process open so that businesses know that, hey, there's $1.5 million for commercial grants, and if there's room to adjust that and ensure that there's some type of equity so that we know what is the allotted amount and so forth, and how people can apply.
And I agree with you. That's one of our most successful programs. We do advertise. To date, we have given out over $5 million to 45 businesses. That's why we put more money in that program this fiscal year, because of the success of the program. But I'll take your advisement and make sure that my understanding, we do advertise. But what happens is when the money is limited and the applications come in, right? At some particular point, we have to stop.
No, that I agree. I think we also may need to ensure that a lot of these businesses aren't double dipping, so if they receive before they, maybe wait a couple of years before they come and reapply, so that other businesses can receive some of these benefits. And at the same time too, if we can make a priority for the type of businesses that we're trying to attract as well.
Point well taken. Thank you.
Any
Thank you so much for the budget preparation. I just want to state on the record, thank you for making sure our corridors, there are some funds allocated for our corridors. I think it's important, our commercial corridors, that we give some attention to that. I noticed that, I just wanted to, on the record, clarify, well, actually, that point's been beaten to death, so. So I went through the budget with you. I'm okay. We talked about all of the concerns. I'm very excited about the housing initiative. As we know, we have a housing crisis. So I'm very happy that, I can't wait for you and the city administration to get together and find out about those potential lands so that our North Miami residents can have an opportunity to live here if they choose to own property and whatnot. So I'm happy for the housing initiative.
Thank you.
And I don't have any questions at this point. Thank you.
Vice Chair. Oh, go ahead.
Sure. Right, now that I've had an hour while everybody else is talking to sort of look through the budget, I don't see, there are costs. The Scott Galvin Center is expensive.
Yes.
I can tell one thing we need right now are cameras, for security reasons. If me or the council person who comes after me wants to find funds for the Galvin Center or something else in District 1 specifically, how does your budget provide for any revenue for that? I mean, I see a lot of programs mentioned, none of them are District 1 programs.
Well,
District 40, that too.
well, let me, you and I have spoken about the Scott Galvin Center, and it was my understanding that we will address that in our land acquisition plan that we will be bringing to the board probably in either October or November.
Fair enough.
Okay?
Fair enough.
And that's how I was looking to address that.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I have other questions too, but I don't want to belabor the evening, so thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair, you have any?
Real quick, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Shiver, please just, the 7th Avenue, stuff you see, which is a priority, how much do you have allocated besides the 150?
Well, the $150,000 in
And I
my
said
budget,
besides
I see
that one.
100. I don't, that's all I have allocated
Okay,
to
thank you.
7th Avenue.
But you just had 700,000 3 months ago.
Yeah, I know, but we haven't spent it,
Exactly.
Mr.
That's
Mayor,
when you have
but
700,000 sitting at the bank. That's
What
you need
bank?
to spend.
we trying for the past couple
Okay,
of
but you need
months.
to see. That's when you have 800,000 now. 100,000 now plus 700. That's 800,000 that you have to spend. You got to tell them they have you have 800,000 at the bank.
I do not have 800,000, so please don't say that. He allocated 150, and if you look at other districts, just like Councilman Galvin mentioned, it's not equalized. So if you're gonna advocate for all districts, please do it across the board.
But why
So
don't
it's
we
not.
do that? How much
That's what I'm
money you
saying.
have allocated for each district totally for this year?
A couple of boards, they approved a District 4 priority of 666,000, which is reflected on the
Prior
budget.
to you coming here.
Right. And then, and I don't want to just demean $100,000, because $100,000 are used to get scope of services and cost analysis for 7th Avenue, so then when we make a commitment to the project, we know the scope of work and we know how much we're spending. We have a lot of plans, but we don't have actionable documents that I can use to be able, I wouldn't even know how much money and to what project to allocate those funds unless we do this analysis
Yeah, if we don't have
first.
studies, you want.
Right, I want action
That's the
documents.
same thing. We put 700,000 and we don't have project for it. We have to go and look for projects.
Exactly.
I'd like to move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion on the board.
I have a question before, sorry. And you have all those projects, all those capital projects and those contracts that you're signed with those developers.
Yes.
But I discussed with you about compliance, and I thought
Exactly.
you were gonna address, you were gonna
With your
do
in-house counsel.
add compliance for those things, making sure the developers, when you tell them they need to do 10% affordable housing and all those things, they need to hire employee and all those things. I don't think you're gonna rely on staff to tell you that those developers are in compliance with what they promised that they're gonna do.
Thank you. Let me give you an update on the monitoring compliance provisions. One of the things that I found when we looked at these development agreements, that there were obligations, community benefits obligations to hire from the community. There were obligations to pay a certain salary, but also these obligations was on a good faith basis and a self-reporting basis. And it's been my experience that even though the developers are socially conscious individuals, when you start getting down to the subcontractors, they become a little, they become a little relaxed with the facts and the documents. So one of the things that we sought to implement was a monitoring compliance where we bring a consultant in, and the consultant actually goes to the job site, right, and pull certified payroll documents to make sure that where the people are working, who they are, and make sure they're getting the right pay. I suspect they're not getting the right pay because historically, if they were getting the right pay based on the obligations, right, the developer will be screaming about how high those costs are. Since they're not screaming, that tells me they're not really paying them. And so we want to be able to implement the monitoring process, the monitoring and compliance. The compliance part is to help them with outreach and proactive to help them reach their numbers. So we have talked to the purchasing department. We have a couple of vendors. We will bring, the purchasing department will be preparing an item to bring back to this board, hopefully at the next board meeting, so that we can implement the monitoring provisions in each one of these development agreements so that we know that they are doing what they're supposed to do. And if they're not doing it, we don't shut the projects down. We try to assist them and be proactive to help them reach those numbers. So thank you for that.
Another question, do the developers are going to contribute to
Right.
to those?
We looking at the way I'm accustomed to it is I'm accustomed to the CRA hiring the monitoring consultant, right? The CRA pay for it, and the developer reimburses the CRA. Now, to what degree do they reimburse us? I am prepared to pick up some of the cost, right? But I think it's more imperative that the developer picks up that cost as well, but we are prepared to share in some of those costs, and I got those dollars allocated in the infrastructure grant money for those services.
When they submit a plan and application, do they pay a fee? The same thing as the city? No?
No, Mr. Chairman,
Cost
we've had a
to the-
discussion about this in the past. They do not pay a fee to offset costs.
That's
So-
another element too, so.
I know other CRAs require fees when people apply for large-scale grants and TIF incentives to help offset the cost of the staff and the outside consultants. Not just myself, but like Kevin Crowder and other folks who review these things.
If
But
that
we-
is the wish of the board, when we negotiate or renegotiate, I would take into consideration. That's a new nuance for me, but at the end of the day, I don't create policies, I enforce it. If the board feels
Either the
that,
CRAs apply that.
Yes, other CRAs, where I act as general counsel, do require fees. They're evergreen fees. They pay for all the consultants. You know, they're getting money or land or both in many cases, so they're developers. They can usually afford it. The same way they're going to pay for this monitoring compliance. So, but that's something, we've discussed it before, and I know that some, you know, folks, you know, they don't, we could have different levels, sliding scales, all kinds of things. I did discuss it with the city. They do require fees for planning and zoning, you know, review and approval as well. So that we can discuss that in the future too, if you want.
Thank you. No other questions?
No.
Madam Secretary?
I have a motion made by Board Member Estime Irvin to approve Agenda Item 1. The motion was seconded by Board Member Timothy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Item passes 3-2.
Thank you very much. Do you have any report?
there's no reports, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
End time 6:49 PM.